Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Sporting Max. Today, we are once again joined by NBL commentator, broadcast, and expert analyst Liam Santamaria. Welcome back to the podcast, Liam. It's incredible to have you on once again. How you going?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. Thanks for having me back. Always ready to chat. Pre-season for the NBL right now. Pre-season action just a week away, so lots to discuss.
Well, first of all, I really appreciate, coming on for another chat. I mean, what an NBL off-season it's been. We'll start by, reviewing the off-season. So can you sort of explain and take me through, what you've been doing or what you've been working on in the off-season?
Well, yeah, sure. I mean, it's been a bit of a shorter off-season than usual. We had an epically long off-season before that last year. So nice to have a short one. And it was a quick turnaround because as I spoke about with Dean Vickerman recently, Melbourne United, they didn't have long to celebrate their championship. They won the title.
And next day they wake up and you got to get ready to do it all over again.
For real. Yeah. And at free agency opened maybe 48 hours later. So that was kind of the same for us, really. You call on the grand final and the Melbourne United hoist the trophy, and then bam, we're right into free agency. So that was a big couple of weeks. And then straight out of free agency was the Olympics.
Yeah.
So, the Boomers and that bronze medal campaign. I had a couple of weeks kind of focused on covering that, speaking to people straight after the games and instant reaction to that. And then straight after the Olympics was the Summer League. So always some NBL interest and some Aussie interest involved there. It was unfortunate Josh Giddey went down in the first couple of minutes of his game, but and it was a bummer not to be there this year, 2 years in a row, not able to be there, but covered that. And then since then, just been gearing up for the start of the season. So I've been speaking to each of the coaches week after week in the lead up to the new season, a whole bunch of brand new coaches, a couple of coaches who have been doing it for a little while, and just getting a bit of a feel for where all the teams are at because the season now is just around the corner.
You mentioned Josh Giddey and how he went down with an injury in those first sort of NBA Summer League games. But now what a start he's had, pick 6 in the draft. And with OKC, I think they've pretty much given him, like Homicide described, the keys to the house. Like Connor Henry probably should have done at Adelaide. Nothing against Connor Henry, but they've pretty much just said, this is your position, this is your role in the team. Here's the keys and it's your position to take.
It's been awesome, hasn't it? It's been so good. It's a great situation for him, a rebuilding team like that. Where he can have some ups and downs. They can lose some games. He can make some mistakes, but they're allowing him to play through it. And I actually think Connor Henry deserves some credit for the progress that Giddey's made. I mean, he has one season in the NBL. Connor didn't start him right out of the gate. They had Donald Sloan in the mix and he kind of eased his way into it. But before too long, you realize, okay, come on, I need to give this guy the ball and let him make plays. And from there on out, it was Josh Giddey running that team. And at the same time, they didn't just give up on the season. It was really Isaac Humphreys' injury that took away their finals chances. But I actually think Connor Henry helped Josh Giddey a lot last season. And then, of course, he gets picked 6 in the draft, like you say, and then he comes out and right from the start of preseason is playing at a really high level. So that has just been super fun to watch. You've got LaMelo Ball, who did it last year, Rookie of the Year in the NBL, Rookie of the Year in the NBA, and Josh Giddey just following in his footsteps beautifully.
So how have you analysed his sort of progress over these first sort of 5 or so NBA games?
Well, he just looks so comfortable, doesn't he? He looks, when you hear Michael Cage, the analyst for the OKC broadcast, talk about how he just doesn't look like a rookie. He looks like a seasoned vet. Now, having, he's one of the youngest, if not the youngest guy in the league, and yet he's playing in a way that just looks so comfortable. So that's been the big take for me. early on. And you can see, I mean, this is a kid who works hard on his game. And so he's got some elements to his skill set already that he didn't have earlier in the year when he was playing in the NBL. I mean, the floater has been a beautiful thing to watch, hasn't it? I mean,
absolutely.
Matthew Dell, it's not quite Tyler Harvey, but it's very nice.
Yeah.
And, when you're releasing that at 6'8", over the top of the defense, you've seen it. Guys like Joel Embiid, Rudy Gobert, they can't get to that floater, and he's able to make plays. And the other thing is that's really stood out for me, we knew the attributes that he had as a tall point guard, 6'8", 6'9" in shoes, and the ability to make plays by looking over the defense. And that's really, for me, come home to roost. He's making plays in pick and roll. No matter the coverage, he's able to see over the top, find the angle to maybe make the pass to the guy down low or skip it to the opposite corner. And you combine the physical attributes and the feel for the game with his outstanding decision-making.
Yeah.
He's having just a ripping start to his NBA career.
I mean, he's made a couple of deep threes too, I've noticed. He's been really working on that three ball.
Great point. Looks really comfortable with that. That was a huge talking point throughout last NBL season. And as the scouts were assessing his development was he has to shoot that at a consistent clip to keep the defense honest. And so he's been doing that, not hesitating, spacing to the perimeter, catch and shoot in transition. The defense slips under the screen. He rises up and lets it go. And for the most part, he's been knocking it down, and that just opens up his entire game. The defense has to provide a bit more of an honest coverage on those pick and rolls, and he starts to pick them apart. So that's a great point. Another element of his skill set that he's been working on and has clearly been improving.
Now, I remember last time he came on the podcast, we had Dennis McVicious, the NBA scout, with us, and you actually pitched one of the NBL players, or a couple of them, to Dennis, who should be looked at by the scouts, and that was Jock Landale and Isaac Humphreys. Now, we've seen Jock Landale get there with the Spurs, and Greg Popovich is treating him sort of a bit lightly, but he scored 10 points in the span of 5 minutes. And he's been playing some incredible basketball in the time that he's actually given on court.
Yeah, he's had a good time, not a long time on the floor, hasn't he? And you could see it in his face, in his expression when he was out there. He was a man on a mission in those garbage time minutes that he had, and he made the most of it. And that's all you can do. I actually think I need to place a call to Matt Nielsen, who's on that San Antonio Spurs coaching staff. Well, what is going on, mate? Can we get Jakob Poeltl's out right now? Drew Eubanks is doing some good things, but can we get Big Jock a little bit more playing time? But it's great to see him there. I was saying all last season, we know he's going to be an NBA player next year. Just watching his progress over the previous years, blowing up at Summer League for the Milwaukee Bucks a couple of years ago, where he was their leading scorer, should have been in the NBA then. It was just lucky for us that we were able to have a season of him in the NBL, grand final MVP, took his team to the championship, and now he's off and running with his NBA career.
So how do you envision the impact that he can have on that Spurs team?
We just need some opportunity, doesn't he? He just needs to stay ready, and that's a tricky, difficult thing to do because he's coming from a situation last year where he was the man.
Yeah.
They played through him. He was one of the best players, if not the most influential player in the league, right up there alongside guys like Bryce Cotton and Nathan Sobey. And so to go from that to, all right, I'm not in the starting lineup. In fact, I'm not even in the rotation. I'm at the end of the bench, but I got to continue to stay ready. I got to put in some extra work during the week on the floor, not just getting my reps up with my shots, but the fitness that he's not getting from playing minutes night after night now. So he's putting in all that extra work, staying ready. And we saw when he checked in the other night that he's doing a really good job of that. So I'm high on him as a future NBA rotation guy. You know, I mean, can he get to a point where he's a starting big? It's going to be a tricky thing to do, but I wouldn't put it past him in a year or so. But in the meantime, I just think he needs some opportunity and some minutes, and he can prove that he can be a part of that rotation on a Spurs team that's, what are they, 3-6 right now? Yeah. They're not going to be winning the championship this year. I'm hoping that as the season progresses, he's going to get more of those minutes, and I've no doubt he'll take advantage.
So with the Summer League, we saw Joe Lachul go over to there for the Phoenix Suns. Do you see him, you know, progressing into an NBA sort of style player? Obviously, with the exit of Jock Landale from Melbourne United, he's obviously going to be stepping up into a better and bigger and greater position there.
Big opportunity for him. Huge opportunity this season. And I'm excited that he's getting it. I think it's cool from Melbourne United. They recruit this guy and you say, we're going to sign you to a multi-year deal. But you're coming off the bench behind Sean Long in year one. Yep. You're coming off the bench behind Jock Landale in year two. And I've described it as he's been bursting at the seams last year for more minutes and more opportunity. And I was surprised. I thought, well, he's going to go elsewhere. There's no guarantee that Melbourne are just going to say, you know what, we're not going to recruit over you. It's your turn to be the starting five. And let's go. So I thought, well, he's a very interesting guy to watch in free agency. You know, can Tassie come in and say, do you know what? Come to us, you're going to play 30 minutes a game. Or can a team somewhere else around the country make that kind of offer? But instead, it's cool. Melbourne United have said, you've developed within this program, and now you're going to get the opportunity to shine in a big role. So they've got Ariel Hukporti, the next star. He's going to come off the bench and support Joe. They might even share some minutes together because Joe has that skill set where he can play at the four. And it's going to be fascinating to see what kind of season he can have in that role. Can he continue to take those leaps that we've seen in recent years? And it was a shame that he didn't get out on the floor at Summer League. He had a bit of a health issue that kept him off the floor and meant that the Suns weren't able to put him out there. But hopefully he can have a big year in the NBL and then get another one of those types of opportunities mid next year and try to take advantage.
So how do you think, and do you think Melbourne United can fill that hole and void left by Jock Landale? Obviously, you know, signing Caleb Agata and Matthew Dellevedova. But then they lost Mitch McCarron and Scotty Hobson's exited, you know?
It's been a bit of a changing of the guard, isn't it? Yeah, you talk about Scotty Hobson and Mitch McCarron and Jock Landale, Uday Bubba as well, not with the squad. He's over back in the G League. So they're big outs. I mean, they were four guys that were hugely influential in the championship campaign last season. So how do you cover for them? Well, it's going to be interesting to see how each one of those new additions go. You know, Delly, I mean, I think I found it interesting moment. I was told that Mitch McCarron was going to Adelaide before the playoffs last season. Wow.
Yeah.
So, which I find very interesting because really those conversations aren't supposed to be taking place.
Yes.
Whether or not he was aware that Delhi was coming in, I'm not sure. But instead, he's going to be running the point with the 36ers. So how does Delhi go? Well, he hasn't played a lot of basketball over the last couple of years. Was solid at the Olympics, but not at the sort of standard we've previously seen from him in the green and gold. But so that's going to be interesting. He's a high-level guy. He's going to run the team really well. He's going to defend at a high level. Dean Vickerman was telling me he wants him to try to score a bit more.
Yeah.
Back to that kind of St. Mary's sort of mindset that he had, where he was an aggressive guy looking to score. So that's going to be interesting. Caleb Agata as well. I mean, he's, leading scorer of the Israeli League, had that great game against Team USA in the lead up to the Olympics, but this is a big step up coming into the NBL as an import, as a guy that they're going to need to get plenty of buckets. And, as we say, Ariel Hukporti coming in as well. So they've got, I think you have to say they've got less talent on paper. Yeah. Have to coming into this season. Last year, they were completely stacked We said from the outset that they should win the title, and then they went ahead and got it done. You can't say that about this team right now. But in our very, very early predictions, I put them in the top 4 because they've got championship experience on that squad, and Chris Golding and Joe Luala-Chul and Dave Barlow, Mason Peatling, these kind of guys. They've got Jack White to come back in. And they have one of the very best coaches we've ever had in the NBL, in Dean Vickerman, who knows how to get his teams playing at a high level. Melbourne United's never missed the playoffs with Dean Vickerman at the helm, and I'd be surprised if that happens this season.
I mean, they've also got an age factor too in there. You know, they've got Dave Barlow, re-signing him. I think that's a great another addition to bring him back, you know, with the experience he's had at the club. And then bringing in Brad Newley from Sydney to sort of cooperate with Dave. I think that, how do you see that move from them, you know?
It's a great point about Brad Newley because they've also added Dion Prewster. So they lost Sam McDaniel, who was a key guy for them as a defensive hound on the wing. Dion Prewster has been playing well in New Zealand. He's going to come in and kind of play that role. And I think they're going to look at Newells as a kind of a punch of energy off the bench. Now, he's been trending downwards over the last couple of seasons. There's no doubt about it as he kind of gets older in his career. But having said that, I caught up with a couple of the guys from the commentary team for lunch the other day, and Newley happened to be in the neighborhood, dropped in and hung out for a little while. And let me tell you, he looks in incredible shape.
Wow.
Incredible shape. Like the Newells that we saw out there on the floor for years and years and a couple of seasons ago has really trimmed down, working hard with Nick Popovich on a daily basis in Sydney before he came down to Melbourne. And I'm excited for that because we know how dynamic he is in transition as a slasher towards the rim, drawing fouls and getting on the rim. And if he can tap back into that at a high level, that's going to prove to be a really savvy signing by Melbourne United. So cool to see him in great shape, and can't wait to see what he looks like out on the floor in pre-season.
What about the Jack Jumpers? I mean, you mentioned Sam McDaniel, not at Melbourne United anymore. Obviously, they've got him. Then they've added Will Magnay, Clint Steindl. They've got all these great Aussie additions, plus a couple of star imports. You know, how do you predict their first inaugural season in the NBL is going to go?
It's going to be tough.
Yeah.
It's going to be tough. I think year one for an expansion team is always tough. You know, I mean, can they win some games? For sure. They've got some exciting talent on that team. We talk about trimming down. I'm hearing Will Magnay's been doing the same.
Yeah.
I'm hoping to see him get back to that kind of bouncy, athletic, shot blocking Will Magnay from the Brisbane Bullets. If he's that, Josh Majette, Josh Adams, two really high-level imports. If their other import can provide a good punch, if Jack McVeigh can continue to improve, I think they've got championship experience there in Clint Steindl, and I think people are sleeping on Nikita Mikhailovsky as well, the Russian next star, who is a high-level guy as well. So they've got plenty of talent, but it's just really hard when you're not. Everything's brand new.
Yeah.
Everything is going to be a first for this. It's going to be a first home game. It's going to be a first road trip. It's going to be a first time playing this team, playing that team. It's going to be a first time as a group going through the trials and tribulations and the ups and downs of a season. And, we look at the experience of the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix, started with a bang, got loaded with a whole bunch of home games right out of the gate. They took advantage, but hit a wall.
Yeah.
Finished second last in their inaugural season. Been terrific since then. 20 minutes away from a grand final appearance last season. Hopefully the Jack Jumpers can achieve a similar kind of build, but I think it's going to be tough. In one, and I think really that they will have done well to stay off the bottom for mine. In reality, excited to see him in the league.
Yeah.
I'm sure that Scott Roth and the guys down there will think, well, that's a bit unfair and you're overlooking us. But I think for an expansion team, that's the challenge. And we'll see how they can go.
I mean, United sort of trialled it last year, bringing in Yuri Baba, a Japanese player, and then that succeeded. I think other teams have I think you mentioned it last time you came on. Other teams have looked at it and you've gone, that's worked. We're gonna give that a try. And then Southeast Melbourne Phoenix, and the Brisbane Bullets bringing in some guys alike. I think there was a 7-footer in there too.
2 7-footers.
Yeah.
Big fella at Southeast Melbourne, Joe Chi. Super high-level guy. Great signing for them because they were looking for an import center to start in front of Dane Pinot and to replace Yanni Wetzel. And then all of a sudden, Joe Cheek becomes available. Former NBA guy, Chinese national team. And now you can sign him as a special restricted player.
Yeah.
Almost all of his salary outside of the salary cap. Huge savings for them in terms of getting up into the luxury tax. And at the same time, they get a high-level player. So there's going to be some challenges for him. Brand new league, brand new style. The strength and physicality of the league will be challenging for him, just like it was in the NBA. There's a language barrier as well in terms of communicating with his teammates and the coaching staff and the like. So plenty to work through. He's also going to head back and play for the Chinese national team in the FIBA windows. They're going to lose him, is my understanding, just in advance of the start of the season for a bit of time. And again, later in the year during the FIBA window, because that's very important for him. But huge for the league. Great signing for them. Excited for what he can do. And Big Lou in Brisbane, all 7'5" of the man. Now, he's a development player. Young, raw project. He's not going to play anywhere near the kind of role that Joe Chi's going to play, but can he get some minutes? Jack Salt, Tyrell Harrison. I mean, they don't have an all-star there in the 5 spot. So what can he get done at practice? Can he work his way into a regular spot in the rotation? That'll be interesting to watch. But in the meantime, just great to have what is becoming kind of like the globalization of the NBL. I mean, talk about those guys from Asia. I mentioned Mikhailovsky and Ariel Hakporti, the French guys from around the league as well. We've got so many players from parts of the world in the league this year that we've never had before, and it's really exciting.
So how do you see the next stars going this season? I mean, so far in the league, we've had like superstar next stars. How do you see this next group of next stars, also Mojave King from next season, going this season?
Well, it's going to be fascinating because I chatted about this with Dan Shamir, head coach of the Breakers, recently, about there's an element about a bunch of these next stars coming in this year that's different to what we've seen before.
Yeah.
Brian Bowen, RJ Hampton, LaMelo Ball,
Didi Lozada.
Well, yeah, Didi Lozada. Didi Lozada had it. But certainly neither of Josh Giddey or Mojave King. None of those guys had played any pro ball prior to stepping out as a next star in the NBL. Now, LaMelo Ball as a youngster in Lithuania, I'm not counting it because it wasn't really the real deal at an NBL. But these guys have been playing high level ball. You know, you look at Ariel Hakporti playing there in Lithuania. Mikhailovsky, the VTB United League in Russia is very, very good league. You've got some really good teams in that league. And he is a 2-time Young Player of the Year in that league. So you talk about Tom Digbo and Ousmane Dieng, Hugo Besson. They've all got a bit of pro experience, a bit of experience playing with grown men. And I think that's going to equip them well for coming into the NBL and playing a role. You know, these other guys like LaMelo and RJ, and they've come from being a big fish in smaller ponds in playing high school ball and AAU. And there's a bit of a transition. Now, some of them handle it better than others. LaMelo, of course, handled it phenomenally well. Josh Giddey handled it phenomenally well. Mojave King last year, less so.
Yeah.
So I think that's a cool little difference with the next stars this year. These guys coming in from Europe who already have some pro experience.
Talking Adelaide 36ers, we mentioned bringing in Mitch McCarron. They've brought in Harvey King from Cairns and Kai Sotto, the big man. How do you see this 36ers team going into this season?
Well, I'm intrigued. I'm really curious to see how that's going to play out. Brand new head coach as well, CJ Bruden. His first head coaching experience at the NBL level. So it's a really interesting mix of players. You know, you've got, as you were saying, you've got some high level veterans who are ready to compete for a championship. Daniel Johnson, Mitch McCarron, Sunday Dech, Isaac Humphreys. You've got some imports who are not too dissimilar, Dusty Hannahs, Todd Withers, these kind of guys. But at the same time, you've got these youngsters. You've got Mojave King, who has to play minutes. Mojave King can't move to Adelaide this year from Cairns and having that roller coaster season he had last year and not play at least 15, if not 20 minutes per game. Kai Sotto, a little bit of a different kettle of fish. He's not necessarily headed straight to the NBA draft at the end of this season. He has 2 years really to make that happen, but there'll be some pressure and some expectation to play him as well. So how does CJ Bruden manage those competing interests? On the one hand, trying to win games and win the championship, and on the other hand, trying to get a couple of young kids minutes, opportunity, and the ability to develop their game up towards the NBA level. Not easy to do. Really, really difficult thing to do, especially when you're stepping out there as a first-time head coach. So I'm fascinated to see how they go. And I think the other interesting tidbit as well is that Isaac Humphreys is still not completely 100%. He had that foot injury midway through last season, completely derailed Adelaide's year. And my understanding is he has hardly been on the floor during pre-season practice thus far. They're going to take him to the Blitz. They're going to look at the potential for him to maybe play a little bit, but I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't play in the Blitz at all, which means he'll be kind of coming into the start of the NBL season a little underdone. And hopefully that works out okay. There's no sort of re-injury type of situation. He can come out and have a big year, but it's an element of disruption to their preparation that has to have a bit of an impact.
So what about the Sydney Kings? You know, they're coming in with a different approach this season. You know, no Casper Ware, new head coach Chase Buford. I mean, can you guide us through their off-season?
Lots of changes. Yeah, lots of changes. So obviously it starts with the head coach. They were very firm on moving away from Adam Ford. They wanted to go in the direction of an American head coach. So Chase Buford comes in. Always difficult. I mean, we've got a few of them, don't we? And Chase Buford and Scott Morrison, guys that are coming in from overseas, G League and the like, and trying to instantly have success in the NBL. Now, Will Weaver was able to do that. He was a game or two away from a championship with the Sydney Kings, but very few others have been able to have that kind of success right out of the gate without having spent time here in the NBL. You know, a little bit of time like James Duncan has as a Sydney Kings assistant, or time as a player like, you know, Brian Gorgon and Al Westover and these types of guys did. So that's going to be interesting. And then, they made some big changes within the roster as well. Casper Ware gone, Jalen Adams coming in to replace him. He's going to be excellent. He's going to be really good. Has experience playing for Chase Buford and is a high-level guy. RJ Hunter is a good signing. They were able to re-sign Jarrell Martin. So 3 imports there that will challenge for being the best import trio in the league, all with NBA experience. And they were able to bring in Makua Maker, next star as well as his cousin Matua Maker. Those two for me, and the return of Dejan Vasiljevic at what level, when he can come back in, and what level, I think for me are the key to this team this season, because we know how good Vasiljevic was last season. Can he get back to that level? And how do Matua and Makua-Maker handle and manage coming into this pro environment, sometimes playing minutes, sometimes maybe playing less minutes that they want? How does that go? How does that go in the locker room and on the practice floor? If all of that goes well, this team has a really high ceiling. You see the bookies right now have their favorites coming into the preseason. If all that goes well, they're a championship level team in terms of the talent that they have on their roster. But they've got a lot of different pieces coming in that need to mesh together, and that's going to be a big challenge for them.
Once again, like you mentioned, Sydney Kings moving away from Adam Ford. He's been snatched up by the Cairns Taipans, taking the former Sydney coach on board with them. Have you got any idea for them as to how they may want to approach this season?
Well, they're looking to win. You know, Adam Ford, they've brought Scott Machado back. They got Kawatanoe and Majuk Deng healthy. I really like the signing of Tajir McCall. High-level defensive guy. He's kind of, a little bit like Justin Simon. He's going to come out and have a big impact, especially at the defensive end. And then guys like Mirko Jeric and Jordan Natai both looking to kind of, continue to roll off what were pretty good seasons for them last year. The big thing for me for them is Steven Zimmerman. So lose Cam Oliver, replace him with Zimmerman. I've got concerns about the kind of level of condition that he's coming into the preseason with. To put in a whole bunch of work right now to get in terrific shape for the start of the season. But if he's a hit, if he works well with Scott Machado, and he's come in saying he wants to be Defensive Player of the Year. Well, if he can be, I mean, Ding Adele said the same thing to me last year when he's known played out. So if he can live up to that, if he can be an impact guy for them on pick and roll coverages and on protecting the rim, then that unlocks a real high ceiling for that team. But it's always a challenge for those small market teams. They were awesome 2 seasons ago, fell off a cliff last season. And the big question for them as they go back into the Cairns Convention Centre, can they bounce back and surprise some teams again this season? So they've got plenty of talent. And if they can stay healthy and all those pieces come in and have an impact, they can win a whole bunch of games.
So how do you see the Perth Wildcats, bouncing back from that championship loss this season under new head coach Scott Morrison and the whole new ownership group?
It's another team with huge changes, isn't it? You spoke to Hutchie recently. He and his crew have kind of taken over the reins, as you know, and then they've had some big changes within the roster as well. Of course, none bigger than Trevor Gleeson. That under Trevor, they just had an infrastructure there that meant that they were going to be competitive year in, year out. Now, last year coming into the preseason, I wasn't sure that they had all the pieces to keep their streak alive. I knew they'd be in the mix. I thought they'd be right on that playoff bubble and maybe out. Instead, they were in. They got right through to the grand final series. Now they got Bryce Cotton back. He said he's feeling like himself again. He's healthy. He's back out on the floor. That's big. And I'm trying to decide whether to drop this or not. I think it's big that they got him back. Because there was a moment during the offseason with Bryce Cotton where maybe that was a little shaky.
Wow.
Most people don't know this. This is not out there on the pub. This is a Matt Becker
Sporting Max exclusive.
Sporting Max exclusive. Maybe that was a little shaky at the time when Trevor Gleeson left and Bryce had a bit of an opportunity to think about whether he wanted to come back. Well, he's back. That's big. Todd Blanchfield's a little injured coming into the season, but they've got Michael Fraser, the import, to play on the wing as well. Vic Law, super high-level signing. Had some ankle issues. We saw that last season, and they've lingered throughout the offseason. But even not at 100%, he was good at the Summer League, and I think he's going to have a really good year. And Matt Hodgson, a late signing, I think that kind of helped just finish their roster off. It meant that they could add a little extra punch on the wing there in Michael Fraser because they didn't need to get an import 5. So they're going to be good again. Mitch Norton as well. He's back. The Tassie Jack jumpers weren't quite able to lure him away. So they're going to be in the mix. The big, huge challenge for them, like it was for New Zealand last season, is playing the majority of the first half of their season on the road.
Yeah.
We know the enormous home court advantage the Wildcats have year in, year out. Well, they're not going to have that at the start of the season at all. You see the recent news coming out of Western Australia and and the roadmap in terms of the border opening up. It's going to be interesting to see when they're going to be able to play. If they're going to be able to play their first home games as it's currently scheduled, or whether they're going to have to move and shake a little bit, will be interesting. But that's going to be a big challenge for them. New head coach, some new pieces in the roster, but playing all those games on the road early on, them and the Breakers have the challenge of trying to get some early wins to keep their head above water before they go home and make it rain later in the year.
I mean, I can feel and sort of sense why Bryce Cotton may have been a bit shaky there during the off-season. I certainly would have had a really good relationship with Trevor Gleeson, and then you got a new head coach coming in, so like, oh, do I stay? Do I go? I don't know what I'm going to do. But fantastic that he made, that decision to return. I think he's just going to be, once again, comes in year out, every year, new surprise from his from his sleeve. What he pulls out this year, who knows?
For real. And I mean, he's now working on a legacy in the NBL that's up there with the absolute very, very best. Only one person in NBL history has won more MVPs than Bryce Cotton.
Andrew Gaze.
The man, Andrew Gaze. He's sitting there alongside Leroy. Now, Leroy got shafted for some awards back in the day, but he's a 3-time MVP now.
Yeah.
3-time champion. And he is still in the prime of his career. Now, that's scary. Great to see that, as you say, he's back with the Wildcats this season. Great to see he's back out on the training floor and he's feeling good and he's feeling healthy. And I was asked, I mentioned those very early predictions that we were asked to do recently. And they said, well, who's going to win the MVP? I said, was Bryce Cotton playing?
Yeah.
Because before you've seen any of the preseason or anything, he, for me, is just the absolute obvious choice because he's just a superstar of the league, not just in the now, all time.
So the NBL signing a media and broadcast deal, just growing every year with Channel 10, ESPN, and KO plus News Corp. What does that mean for the league as it gets greater every year?
Huge.
Yeah.
Huge broadcast deal. And you talk about all the different elements to it as well. So that's key. Having all those broadcast partners, a bit of free-to-air. The sponsors need some free-to-air coverage. Great deal with ESPN, market leader in the sporting broadcast realm, and then of course KO sitting alongside that beautifully, and then of course the News Corp element as well. We've seen Matt Logue; he's been turned into a full-time basketball writer now. The stories are flowing, the column space in the papers. Those News Corp papers syndicated around the country are growing for basketball. So that's all huge. And then on top of that, the league is getting paid millions of dollars now for its broadcast rights.
Yeah.
And that's a huge outcome. So you congratulate Larry Kesselman and Jeremy Lowliger and everyone at NBL HQ, because when they took over the league, 2015, 2016, that was an absolute pipe dream.
Yeah.
That the rights for the broadcast would be sold at that kind of level. And they've been able to get it to that point, and with still plenty of room to grow. So great outcome in terms of the broadcast deal. And I can't wait to be involved in all of that when the season tips off in a couple of weeks.
So NBL referee Jackie Dover, what an amazing story. Been selected as one of 6 referees to participate in the NBA's referee development program. Earlier this year, becoming the first Indigenous female referee. Can you take me through this?
Awesome, isn't it?
Yeah.
Great. You know, when we talk about the development of the players in our league, we talk about the development of the coaches. Trevor Gleeson getting NBA opportunities, Matt Nielsen getting on an NBA.
Yeah.
Will Weaver, of course, transitioning back onto an NBA bench. But it's in this instance, it's happening with the referees as well. So that's huge. She's got a foot in the door now.
Yeah.
You know, an opportunity to not only just develop her refereeing skill set as a part of that development program and perhaps bring it back to the NBL and continue to grow from there. But who knows if she can, you know, the idea of that program is to develop referees to join and officiate NBA games.
Yeah.
So if she can do really well over there, and I've no doubt she will, then she has a chance to become our latest export to the biggest and best league in the world. So huge congratulations to her, to Scott Butler, the head of the referees at the NBL, who's been a part of, you know, bringing her into the mix and helping her develop. And also, you know, to guys like Michael Allen and Vaughn Mabry, the kind of experienced leading refs in the NBL who've helped to mentor the young refs coming through. I think it's, you know, it's a great result for her, but also everyone else involved.
You mentioned Matt Logue before, now becoming, you know, the only full-time paid Australian basketball journalist. What fantastic news that is. I mean, want to congratulate Matt once again. We just interviewed him the other day, spoke to him about it. He was over the moon and like absolutely, you know, enjoying this new position he's in. And the listeners will have to wait for another Sporting Max exclusive we get from Matt Logue. Bit of news coming out of, you know, after the release a couple of years ago of that Hoop Dreams Down Under. Hopefully have to wait for another book.
Hey, another book.
Another book.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a champion bloke, loves the game, loves the sport, loves the NBA, but also has been a big kind of supporter of the NBL over the previous years. So awesome to see him get that opportunity. And I kind of knew he would get the opportunity. My big question was, well, would he go for it? Would he, would he be comfortable to stop covering the rugby for a little while and fully dive into the basketball scene? And I'm happy to see that he's doing it.
Yeah.
I'm excited for the new book in whatever that comes out. And just I'm pumped for all the content that he's going to, the breaking news, the features, all that he's going to pump out over the course of the NBL season as part of that broadcast deal. So that's big time. And I look forward to listening to him have a chat with you.
Thank you. Now, you mentioned the NBL Blitz earlier on taking place, in a week or so. How do you think we're going to go seeing this at this stage? Obviously, it's behind closed doors in Victoria, but then also open, I'm pretty sure it's open to the public in Tassie. So, their fans and the Jack Jumpers fans finally get to see their long-awaited return to their centre.
Well, it's not only the doors are open down in Tassie, the tickets are free.
Yeah.
Thanks to the Tasmanian government coming to the party. So that's massive. Those tickets, absolute hotcakes. I'll be shocked if those stadiums aren't just packed to the brim. I think I saw a notification before saying that all the games at the Ulverstone stadium are sold out, and there's none left there. I mean, sold out, spoken for.
Yeah.
So that's huge. And then everyone else around the country is going to be able to watch the games live on KO freebies. So if you want to get a bit of the blitz and get a sense for the new players and where the teams are at ahead of the season, you're going to be able to, whether you've got a KO subscription or not. So that's big time. And tips off what is it, Saturday?
Saturday, I think it is,
Saturday the 13th. So it's right around the corner.
So are you going to be heading down to Tassie to cover a couple of those games?
Not heading down to Tassie
Yeah.
this year because we're actually going to be calling those games
From
here in Melbourne.
Yeah.
So I just locked it in this afternoon that I'll be calling on opening night.
Wow.
And Pete Hooley, and then I'll be back on night 2 alongside Jack Everin. And can't wait to I love calling the Blitz because you, like I said, you get right from the very start, before even the opening night of the regular season, you get a really good, if you watch a lot of the Blitz, you get a really good sense for where all the teams are at, which new imports are going to have a big impact. And you get a good feel for the start of the journey that each one of these teams goes through over the course of the NBL season. So I've called the Blitz every year for the past 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Looking forward to doing it again.
So you mentioned the games being broadcasted from the studio once again this season. Do you think that's sort of a bonus or advantage that, COVID is bringing to this? You have to adapt to that studio environment?
Well, it is. Interestingly, the NBL flipped it up and was calling remotely prior to COVID.
Yeah.
So we were doing it from the studio the season before. And, there's a bunch of different reasons for that. The biggest one is it's just way more financially viable to do it that way. Now, there's definitely pros and cons, that I really do miss that, the atmosphere when I'm calling games that you get in the stadium, the ability to catch up with coaches and players in the hours or before tip off. And just, being right there in the mix. But there are definitely some advantages as well. And so I think for the NBL, it worked out pretty fortunate that as everybody else was scrambling to start doing that to make it work within that COVID environment, our league had already kind of got their infrastructure in place, and people were used to calling it that way. So that'll be how it is again this season, starting with the Blitz. But there's going to be some elements of difference. I'm hearing some really cool things about upgrades to the set. I'm hearing that we're going to, the analysts like me are going to have some fun tools to play with, like an analysis screen and a plasma and some fun stuff like that. So that'll all get rolled out at the start of the regular season.
So have we got any news on when NBL Overtime's coming back for this season?
Not far away.
Yeah.
Not far away. Yeah. Just we're waiting for our man Corey to get back in the country.
Yeah. New York at the moment.
He's been living his best life.
Yeah.
Went over and called the 3x3 at the Olympics.
Yeah.
Straight to the States, family, friends, whining and dining if you keep your eye on his social media. And but he says he's coming in hot when he gets back. Doesn't have to quarantine.
Yeah.
He's double vaxxed. He's going to give a negative test and he's going to be out and about. We're going to be back in the studio in a week or so and, start pumping out NBL Overtime shows Tuesday nights on ESPN. Perfect.
Now, the Australian Boomers obviously winning bronze medal at Tokyo on a bright future ahead with, we saw the prospect of Matisse Seibel, Josh Green and Josh Giddey. But I listened to you on the Huddle podcast with the NBL with Brian Gorgon post the Olympics. What did you learn or gain most out of this interview?
Cool question, because it was a fun chat. He was in quarantine in Darwin, cooped up, just wanted to get out amongst the people and talk about the campaign that they just had. And so it was one of the easiest interviews I've ever done because I said maybe 3 or 4 things and he just freestyled for the rest of the time. Was really cool to hear him take us behind the scenes to the conversation he had in the locker room following the loss to the States. Where he eyeballed everybody in that room and picked them back up to then come out and put on the performance that they did in that bronze medal game.
Yeah.
And that was huge, and to hear him talk about how it was one of, if not the biggest moment in his coaching career. And I could sense an element of pride in him to say, in that moment, I did exactly what I needed to do. I had exactly the kind of impact I needed to have. Now, the guys out on the floor get the job done, but I could sense that he felt like, in terms of how I could help, I was able to do that in that moment. And then the other thing I thought was cool was when I asked him about the game against Team USA and the huge lead that the Boomers had at one point in that game. You might remember, as a timeout, Dante's yelling and screaming, and we're all at home thinking, oh my God, we're going to beat Team USA and go to the gold medal game. And I asked him about, well, what did he see? What did he see then at the end of that second quarter and at the start of the third quarter, where we went from up double digits to down double digits in the blink of an eye? And what I thought was cool in his response was, he said, I think looking back, I probably made a mistake. I needed to be quicker calling timeouts, try to stop the momentum. As a head coach in that situation, you've got so much going on. You're trying to work out, well, what exactly is going wrong? You've got one of the best, if not the best player in the world in Kevin Durant, catching fire and giving you absolute buckets down one end of the floor. And then you look down offensively and you think, well, actually, we've had a couple of good looks. It's not like we're not executing and they just haven't gone down. But it was interesting to hear him reflect back and say, despite all of that, I should have sensed the momentum and been quicker with some timeouts. And to hear one of the greatest coaches really in the world, the greatest coach in NBL history, and the head coach of one of the best national teams in the world, say, I feel like I made a bit of an error there. I'm always looking at ways that I can improve, I think was really cool, and set a great example for young coaches, everyone, really, coaches, players, anyone in any line of work, no matter how high achieving you are, you can always self-reflect and find ways in which you can improve.
So David Anderson, the NBL legend, an international superstar, called time in his NBL career a little while ago, with amazing memories and championships in this league. What are your greatest memories of him?
Well, so Dave Anderson grew up playing for Frankston, and he and I are born in the same year, 98, right?
Yeah.
It's a bit of a bummer for me that he's retired, because as long as Dave was still playing in the NBL, there was somebody from my year, somebody older than me, still in the league, which kind of made me feel good. It kept me feeling young. So now he's hung it up. That's not the case anymore. But I actually remember Dave as a skinny, lanky, kind of 16, 17-year-old, when he's 6'10", 6'11", still growing, making his way up to become the 7-foot superstar that he became. And I can remember us at the Melbourne Tigers trying to recruit him, get him to come over and join us. And him saying, actually, thanks, but I'm good. The Frankston Blues have me here in the CBA. I'm getting a chance to go up against grown men while still playing junior rep ball on Friday nights. And then, of course, just watching his incredible career from there, the 4 Olympics, the multiple championships in Europe, EuroLeague titles, just a superstar, comes back and wins 2 championships. He's got a trophy cabinet you can see from space. Absolutely incredible career. But you asked about my strongest memories. They actually go back for when he was playing for Frankston and coming up through the ranks. Wow.
NBL 22 champion prediction.
You go first.
I don't know. I'm going to say Perth or Sydney. I think United are going to be strong and good, but I don't see, I've seen a couple of people's predictions saying United in the top 4. I'm going up. I think this season might be a bit different in how they adjust to those different switches in the group and the momentum they have. think Dean Vickerman's obviously one of the greatest coaches in NBL history. Whether he can, still lift them to the top four, I think they're going to be third or fourth place. But I reckon it's out of Perth and Sydney. Sydney got the new coach, how they adjust to that, bring in some superstar imports. And then I think what a great signing from the Perth Wildcats. Vic Law, Matty Hodgson, bringing in Jack Purchase from Melbourne United.
I dig it. I think the team that a lot of people are sleeping on is Southeast Melbourne Phoenix.
Yeah.
Talent combined with continuity is usually really successful in the NBL.
Yeah.
So Tommy Greer at the helm of that club has done a great job. He's put a head coach in place right from day dot who is doing a great job, a really good job. So now he's getting ready for year 3. As we said, they were 20 minutes away from a grand final appearance last year. Now they've made some changes, brand new point guard in Xavier Mumford.
Yeah.
As we said, new starting center in Joe Chi. But a reinvigorated Brian Brockoff with a full preseason under his belt. I think that'll be big for them. Mitch Creek back in action. Dame Pinot back.
Yeah.
And just a lot of pieces from that team last season rolling over into this year. They're going to be right in the thick of things come the pointy end of the season. But for me, I'm going to probably lean in the direction of Perth.
Yeah.
Right, the championship goes through Western Australia. And it goes through Bryce Cotton until it doesn't. Now, Melbourne United in 2018 and last year were able to pry it away. But for me, before we even get a look at these teams in preseason, I feel like that's the obvious choice. Despite the challenges we've spoken about, playing the start of the season on the road, brand new head coach and some new pieces in the mix, I think Perth year in, year out are right there. And it's a safe bet to say they're a strong chance to claim championship number 11.
What about Illawarra Hawks? How do you think, they're going to adjust coming into this season? Obviously, bringing back Justinian Jessup. They're
going to be really good.
Yeah.
Really good. They got Gorge, greatest to ever do it. In this. Tyler Harvey's re-signed on a 3-year deal. Great re-signing by them. Electric scorer. I like the fact that they've brought in an import point guard as well, so that they can play Tyler Harvey a little bit more off the ball.
Yeah.
And I think Antonius Cleveland's going to be good as well on the wing. And DeWalt Reith. So Sam Froling, another year of development for him, but he's got a front court partner there in DeWalt Reith who's a boomer. So I like what they've been able to put together. And they're going to be in the mix as well. I mean, they're the 5 teams for me, the ones we've spoken about: Perth, Melbourne, Illawarra, Southeast Melbourne, and Sydney. Brisbane are a bit of a wild card for me. Lamar Patterson looks like he's in good shape. So I think Robert Franks is probably flying under the radar in terms of the impact that he's going to have for them. So they're a bit of a wild card. We've spoken about Adelaide, the talent that they have, how that all comes together. But that 5, I think, coming into the year, as I said, before we've even seen them in preseason, they feel like the primary contenders for me.
What about NBL season MVP prediction?
Bryce.
Yeah, absolutely.
Come on, man.
not even in question.
Well, I think this far out, he's the guy, right? He's won 3 MVPs. Everyone out west feels like he should have 4.
Yeah.
I think Andrew Bogut robbed him a few years ago. And he's just one of the absolute all-time greats. Now, what I'm interested to see, and I chatted with Scott Morrison about this the other day, is, Bryce has never played for anyone apart from Trevor Gleeson in the NBL before. And that flex offense that they ran was just perfect for him.
Yeah.
The whole team played off Bryce when he had the ball, but when he didn't have the ball. And so that was a perfect environment for him to be the best player in the league.
Yeah.
And have the biggest impact of any other player in the league. How that changes with the new coach on deck, and whether it still is just out and out Bryce Cotton's team, possession after possession after possession at the offensive end, will be interesting to watch and could have an impact in that regard. But I suspect it will, because Scott's a smart guy, and when you've got a Lamborghini like Bryce Cotton in the game, you drive it.
So do you see the prospect of Nathan Sobey, bouncing back and being up there in MVP contention?
Well, for sure. I do. He was obviously top 3 in MVP voting last year.
Yeah.
He's just, coming off a season in career best form. I actually really liked what he did for the Boomers in the Olympic campaign. He had some games there where he actually came out and had a big impact. And he's just in a beautiful place in his in his career right now, where there's a calmness about him. There's a confidence about him. Last year, he's playing alongside Vic Law, and yet Sobes had no question in his mind that he was the best player on the team. In fact, as far as he was concerned, he was one of, if not the best players in the league. And he
showed it,
so he's in a beautiful place. Brand new head coach for him as well. So that's going to be interesting. How does James Duncan go tapping into that Andre Lamanis did so well? And also, he's got some Jets that he's going to be playing alongside. Lamar Patterson, as I said, looks like he's coming in good nick, and he's an elite player, an MVP caliber player when he's at his best, as we know. And Robert Franks as well. I think has a chance to be the best new import to the league this season. People are sleeping on how helpful he's going to be for the Bullets. So how that impacts Sobey and his MVP candidacy will be interesting to watch.
Yeah.
No doubt he's going to come in playing once again at an all-NBL type of level.
What about the Breakers? No Ty Webster this season. He's gone. How are they going to adjust to, no Ty, obviously, who was their superstar last year?
They're stacked.
Yeah.
I think they're going to adjust nicely. Ty's a big out for sure. But, Peyton Seaver, Jeremiah Martin, they're pretty nice replacements.
Yeah.
So they're stacked. I was at their practice yesterday having a look at their squad, and they've just got nice talent up and down the roster. They've got that Kiwi core there, and Tom Abercrombie and Finn Delaney, all NBL second team last year, Rob Lowe, these type of guys. They've signed Yanni Wetzel. Who was awesome for the Phoenix last season. And Dan Shamir does some things offensively that are pretty similar to where Yanni Wetzel excelled for the Phoenix last year. So I think he's going to have another really good year. And, then they've got some exciting other pieces. Seaver, Martin, Hugo Besson, Usman Dieng, a couple of young guys that have a whole heap of talent. So huge challenge for them, playing their first 12 games of the season away from home.
Yeah.
Really, really hard. It's so hard to win on the road in the NBL. And to not have any games in those first dozen where you're like, we've lost 2 in a row, but at least we come home, we can get back on track, get a win on the board, and then go from there. They're not going to have the chance to do that. So can they, unlike last season, can they keep their head above water in the early going? Can they go home with a 500 record, be 6-6, or at something quite close to 5-7? Yeah. If they can do that, that's going to be a playoff team. That's not going to be easy to do.
No, absolutely. Dyson Daniels, is he going to be, do you predict him, as a first round pick in this next NBA draft? I know we're speaking a long way in time here, but.
I think so. Yeah. That's where he's currently projected. And he's pretty good in his early action for the G League Ignite team. Super exciting, of course, having another Aussie coming through the ranks. Another son of an import. His old man, Ricky Daniels, was a superstar for Bendigo for a long time. And I'll be surprised if he's not in and around that level in the first round. Now, things change, right, over the course of the year leading into the draft. We've seen two guys in LaMelo Ball and Josh Giddey over the last couple who have come into the NBL as, projected kind of second round picks, fly up those draft boards and get taken inside the top 10. Well, it also goes the other direction as well. We saw that a little bit with RJ Hampton, where he got picked a little later than where he first expected. I don't anticipate that's going to happen with Dyson Daniels. But as you say, a lot of water to go under the bridge. Yeah. But all signs right now point to him being a first-round pick and another Aussie headed towards, a really long, successful NBA career.
So with the NBA, we've got so many Aussie talent and so much Aussie talent in the league this year. Joe Ingles is still looking like he's in his prime. Slow-mo Joe showing what he does best. Jock Landale, Josh Giddey. How does this represent Australian basketball, in its purity and in its prime?
Well, it does exactly that. It shows that we're an absolute, we're one of the best basketball playing nations in the world. Now, our women have shown that for a long time, right? With girls kicking ass in the WNBA, Lauren Jackson, go right
Michelle
back
Timms,
exactly. Tali Bevilacqua, and then you come through Liz Cambage and what those guys have been able to do, as well as the Opals. Well, right now the men doing exactly that. The NBA littered with Aussie talent. Some guys like Jock, who are trying to work their way into the rotation and get minutes and make a name for themselves. Yeah. Some up-and-coming superstars like Josh Giddey, like what we hope Dyson Daniels will become next season. And then a bunch of other guys, veterans like Patty and Joe and the like, who are just, important parts of the game night rotation for championship contending teams. Brooklyn. Yeah. So you combine that with the fact that our national team is top 3 in the world. The NBL is one of the best leagues outside of the NBA on the planet. And basketball is just popping in Australia right now.
Thanks, Liam, for coming on the podcast today. I'm putting aside, an hour or so of your time to come and have a chat. It's been a pleasure and a privilege and an honor to have you on again.
Awesome, mate. Thanks for having me. Always love chatting with you and keep up the great work. You kick 'em butt, and I enjoy coming on for a chat.
Thanks for the feedback, Liam. Really appreciate it.
Awesome, man. Have a good season.
You too. Stay tuned, everyone, for more Sporting Max.